Oh, if you're listening to this on day of release, it's my 30th birthday. Way! But why not treat yourself to a present by getting more than 40 hours worth of bonus Swirl content over at patreon.com/cinemaswirl. That's right, at the $5 OTP level, you get instant access to every episode of Cinema Swirl, a show where Kevin and I review bad movies. You know this by now. There's a new episode every month, and in April we'll be tackling Tim Burton's 2001 Planet of the Apes, so you wouldn't want to miss that. Head on over to patreon.com/cinemaswirl to find out more. All right, let's get swirling, shall we?
Cinema Swirl! Wait a minute, this isn't Cologne, it's Vicks. It's episode number 76, coming to you from the pharmacy of Hollywood, rifing through the discounted medications of classic movies that my OTP, Sam Chaplin, hello, has not seen before. And I'm your film pharmacist, Cowboy Kevin Mahan, at the dispensary here, dispensing movies you bloody should have well seen by now. Sam, is it Halloween? I've heard about Halloween. I've heard anything can happen on Halloween. You might even do a march. What is it? What is today's film du jour?
Look, right, this is a confusing one, okay?
It is.
It is not Halloween. Sorry, it is Halloween. We are doing Halloween.
God almighty.
Time-wise, it is not Halloween now.
And there's someone looking at the calendar going, oh, it's October 31st over here. What are you talking about? You're simply in the future, or in a rare case, it could be the past.
We offhandedly mentioned, you mentioned Halloween last episode, vis-a-vis Jamie Lee Curtis, and we thought that'd be fun to do. And I'd also been saying for many months now, we need to do some horror outside of Spooky Swirl.
Yeah, once a year is not enough for you to get a horror movie in your veins, considering we've got fucking donkey loads and cart loads and arse loads of horror movies to be getting through. We'll never get to Friday the 13th at this rate.
But then the fact that this film is called Halloween and we're not doing it at Halloween or for Spooky Swirl was too funny for me to resist suggesting that as a thing to do. And now we're doing it.
It was my week off last week, and I couldn't muster the kind of the enthusiasm to counter this. I'm sorry, I've let you down here in this respect. There was a point as well during my week off, and it was my birthday week, where Joe turned to me and went, you know, there's ample ground for you two to easily do a vote of movies for Jamie Lee Curtis. And I thought, you know what, you're absolutely right. And here we are now at Halloween. Which, if you're one of those people who doesn't do Facebook, you can just assume there was a vote, because this definitely would have won. That was it. That was the thing I told myself before I went back to sleep. It was like, you know what?
You'd have had to put Halloween in it. Halloween would have won.
It was gonna fucking win.
Cut out the middle, man. Here we go. Halloween. Come on. I acknowledge that it's weird, but we're doing a horror film outside of Spooky Swirl for the first time in fucking ages, which I'm excited about.
You know what, as well? I do think we have done some other scary movies outside of the spooky format before, and none of one complained, except us now making a big deal about it. And I just want to point out, though, we had done some scary movies before, but the weather was fucking minging when we did it. And I was like, that's grand. There's owls hooting and lightning and all that shite outside. The doors are extra creaky in the house. And today we are recording this spooky movie when there is a legitimate grand stretch in the evenings.
In the words of Bono from U2, it's a beautiful day, and it's not the sort of day, and these aren't the lyrics anymore, it's not the sort of day...
It's a beautiful day! It's not the sort of day! Your corner podcast! Sam, so today we are doing Halloween, which features a standout, as you said, from our last episode, Jamie Lee Curtis.
Yes.
What do you know about this movie, and do you know who it's by as well? Because could be a repeat customer here on The Swirl.
So I believe you mentioned the director / possibly writer, I'm not sure. It's a John Carpenter film, this one.
Hey, JC in the house.
Who did The Thing. Now I saw...
Oh, just, would you, all right, name the movie. Oh no, sorry, yeah. Never mind.
Now, I gave a middling star wipe rating to The Thing.
Did you?
It was a 3-star wipe from me, The Thing.
What? Oh my God.
I'd forgotten that.
It shows you how much I love that movie because I was like, of course he loved it.
What? I thought that too. I was like, oh yeah, I liked The Thing. And then I listened back just to like the last little bit. I was like, 3 stars. Like, oh, I must have not liked The Thing as much as I thought I did.
Was it me spending so long talking about eating the thing? Was that what did it for you? There's a lot of talk about sauce in that episode.
I think, yeah, The Thing itself was quite sort of meaty and juicy, and yeah, lots of talk of eating that horrible monster.
Yeah, very good.
John Carpenter, cult filmmaker, horror guy, but also practical effects, which I'm a big fan of. I think that's part of The Thing. It was part of The Thing, but also part of the thing that I would like in my head, I'm imagining about this movie, Halloween.
John Carpenter challenging podcasters to be more verbose since 1987. Good on you.
Well, he's got such a practical surname as well. John Carpenter. Of course there's going to be practical effects.
The man will build you a movie, is what we're saying, right? Solid foundations. Because I don't feel we talked about this on The Thing. I think we did. But the man's old twinkle fingers, the man's amazing on that old keyboard. The man knows his synth, and he often provides musicalities for these movies in question.
Right.
I was going to ask you if you know the iconic theme song for the movie that we're going to be watching today. Halloween.
For Halloween?
Everybody talking about Halloween, pumpkin candy, and don't you worry about the teens throwing paper at your house and eggs. Halloween. Ew, Halloween.
So, what happened in my head when I was trying to think of what the theme might be? The two things that came up. I want to tell you what happened and what popped into my head. First thing was, no, that's Jurassic Park. The other thing was, no, that's Twilight Zone. I think it's somewhere in between there. It's between those two melodies somewhere. There's like a...
And now it's asking me if I'm playing music again. Yes! Notably, it didn't do that when I sang my special Halloween song. Thank you very much, recording software.
No. So maybe it recognises the actual legitimate melodies rather than your improvised melodies, which I prefer, actually. It might be somewhere in the recesses of my brain, and when I hear it, I'll be like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like when we watch The Exorcist. I think that theme will, as soon as you hear it, you're like, oh yeah, that one, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Now, as Tim Curry once famously said, anything can happen on Halloween. You might even see a cat. But what do you think will happen in Halloween? What do you think will happen in that movie we're going to watch? I mean, it's a scary movie, right? Jamie Lee Curtis, she gonna be all like boo, or what is she going to be going Is she a booer or an R in this situation?
So in True Lies, she was very good at reacting to kind of dramatic and scary situations. I think she's going to be in the case of she's going to be freaking out to an external evil force.
Oh, and by the way, as a quick addendum to the last episode, number 75, those of you who messaged in to let us know that was the first movie James Cameron did after his spectacularly messy divorce, explains everything we wondered about that. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I'm imagining this was from when she was quite a bit younger. This might, and there's always like teenagers or, people in their 20s acting as teenagers in these films. Right, is this the Michael Myers one? Is this Michael Myers? Not Mike Myers.
Hey, now.
Hey?
It's so funny. When you said that, it was like there was a slot machine on the side of my head. When it went, and then it was like, Shagadelic, baby. Oh, behave. Party on, dude. Famous line from the Love Guru.
Yes.
All of those were going through my head.
Not him, but the character of Mike Myers. Don't
call him Michael Myers. Like
Michael Myers.
I guarantee you, because I'm already very silly, if you call him that more than once more, this whole fucking review will just absolutely denigrate itself and just become some sort of a shagadelic time bomb. Do you want me to lose my mojo? I didn't think so.
I very much want your mojo to remain intact. So Michael Myers.
Thank you.
Get out of my swamp. No, Michael Myers. I don't know too much about him as a baddie.
What's he look like? Do you know what he looks like? Is it like, because I consider him to be one of the iconic ghouls of Hollywood.
So we know Kruger. We've experienced Kruger with this kind of melty face.
Old Pepperami cheeks himself, yeah.
And his lovely jumper. We know Kruger. He's not the one with the mask made of skin, I don't think. I think that's Mask Face.
Mask Face.
Oh, is he like a... Is he ski mask? Or like a...
Yo, lady, give me your keys.
Stabbing everyone with ski poles.
Halloween as well, these hoodlums. God of all nights.
Or like a... You know, one of... He's got like a white mask.
Aha! Well, white mask.
Yeah.
What type of a white mask?
It almost looks like what Hannibal Lecter had over his face when he was being wheeled around on that thing where he had the... No.
White mask like Hannibal Lecter?
Hannibal Lecter didn't have a white mask, but he had something over his face that was like... when
He had that jaw thing, so he could be all like...
That, but white. No.
No.
He's got a mask. This guy.
Have you seen him before? Like, do you know, like, is it actually in there somewhere in your head, or are you just
It's
speculating?
in there somewhere, but again, like the theme, this is the one I've least got a handle on. I can identify some of the other ones. The mask man with the chainsaw. I know him. I know what he looks like. This guy, I've got an idea. He's got a mask of sorts. I think it's white. He's called Michael. And I'm not sure what else he wears, or what his weapon is, why he's doing this, or what's special about him.
Is he supernatural? Is he just a bloke? Is he just a proper lad? What is he?
Look, to you, Michael Myers. To me, that's Mikey. That's Mike. He's just a lad. He's just one of the lads.
Hold him to this, folks. Hold him to this. He's obviously not going. He's not going to be hanging out with the celebs. He's going to be hanging out with his mate Mikey Four Fingers or whatever. Yeah, grand.
So if it's John Carpenter who did the thing, and the thing is like a fucking fucked up alien weird monster thing, I reckon there's going to be some element of the supernatural or the sci-fi or the weird here. I don't think it's just going to be a bad guy. I don't think this is just a bad guy. I think this is a
bad dude.
A weird. Is this a guy at all? Is this a person? Who is Michael Myers? I don't know. I don't know who he is, but I think there's something up. Not just murder up, but like worse.
So, do you remember like hearing much about this then growing up? Because for me, like this wasn't a video nasty or anything like that, but there were certain movies in Ireland growing up I do remember where it's like, all right, now this is one of the scary ones. This is like the one that would be on the shelf behind the man in the VHS shop. So like you wouldn't be just going in picking that up willy-nilly. It'd be up there with your Silences of the Lambs, etc. Like for me, this had a waist to it when I finally saw it,
I know this is in the kind of classic horror canon of scary films that would be broken out on VHS or DVD at like a party or something, a Halloween party.
It's part of the horror Hall of Fame, which is not even a real place. That's how hard it is to pronounce.
It's part of that, much like Nightmare on Elm Street, which we've seen, Friday the 13th, which we haven't seen.
Not seen Friday the 13th, and that one's a little bit more complicated because like every year comes up to Spooky Swirl, I'm like, right, Jason Voorhees, let's sort him out with Sam now, and then I'm like, which one do I do? If you know, please message me. I'd like to figure that out finally.
But then who's Voorhees?
No. There's too many names now. No. You're one step away from starting a super group. No.
Okay. This Halloween, much like those films, it's now a franchise, and there's remakes and sequels, and it's one of those ones where it seems to just exist. Every few years there'll be something to do with this coming out.
Do you remember where you were when H2O dropped in the cinema? Halloween 20 years later.
It's one of those ones. Other than knowing that it's in that canon and in that kind of Hall of Fame and in that zone, I'm not too familiar with what goes on or why, and I haven't had too many people say, "Oh, you should watch this." I just know that it's in there as one of those ones.
I'm not really sure how you're going to get on with it because, like, for one, this for me is easily probably my top 5 horror movies. Like, this is.
Oh, okay.
This is one I hold near and dear to my heart. And the Halloween franchise is one of those rare cases where I think it's got like a very perfect movie there. And then all these other ones that come after it, it's like a kind of a bit of a rogues gallery of some really amazing stuff and some really shit stuff. But I kind of love it all, like warts and all, I do have a tender relationship with this franchise, Sam. I'm very forgiving of Halloween, for better or for worse,
Okay. You're a big Carpenter head.
I am, and I owe that entirely to my brother and his friends who like raised me on a diet of John Carpenter movies. But I was very happy. I'd seen this one after I'd seen a lot of the other like bigger John Carpenter movies that were more like probably obviously my speed, like Big Trouble in Little China or They Live and The Thing and whatnot. This one was one I watched later, and I absolutely was blown away by it because I think this is a perfect little horror movie. And I don't mean that in any way disrespecting, in that we're going to watch a movie that's not going to be hours and hours long. And I only watched it quite recently because I wanted to, Joe was like, I want to watch a scary movie. I'm like, well, let's watch fucking Halloween then. And the fact that that was only a month or two ago and I'm raring to watch it again is probably
That's a good sign.
A good sign for me, the protagonist of my life. Now, before we go in and see how Sam gets on with this, let's unfasten the fastening of the mailbag.
So, welcome to the mailbag.
Hey!
Regardless of fastening, we've opened it now. We're in. Let's not think about the fastening. I saw some tweets coming in of people saying, I thought there was a drawstring.
Some people are, they're playing very fast and loose with the fastening. I'm like, all right, loosen up, god damn it.
We're loosening the fastening, but we're not playing fast and loose, guys.
No,
okay?
Come on. You don't need to be so fast. Calm down.
I'm going to dip in. I'm going to pull some out. This has come in from Jamie, who writes the following. With biopics... Is it biopics or biopics?
Biopics.
Biopics
Seems to me like it's a picture that's got like mutagen and DNA in it. But biopics is what I like biopics because it sounds like a very, very specific part of studying the eye.
Sounds like a type of Lego. Lego biopics.
Biopics. Like if you're too old for Bionicle, you might want to get your kid in. It's kind of like Technic mixed in with a little bit of Bionicle, you know?
With biopics, with those types of films about musicians being very popular in recent years.
And I've watched a lot of those in lockdown for some reason. I've watched Rocket Man and Bohemian Rhapsody. I've watched all sorts of shite. Now, I'm happy to report that Elton John is a perfect person whose life is going great and he still loves to shop.
I watched that film, Rocket Man, on a flight, but because of the airline that I was on, they'd edited out all of the gay romance and sex scenes. So
what, you just got the scene where he's crying with his wife? Grace. That's like
it's shorter film. It made much less sense.
A very short movie about a man who started playing music and then very briefly, for one scene in the 90s, married a miserable woman who he hated. And then just kind of went into therapy and went into rehab and was fine.
I tuned out after a while because this doesn't make sense. And then I later on realised, I see what's happened.
Wow.
Anyway, with those films being very popular, which musicians or bands' lives would you most like to see depicted in a film?
Oh, man. This is the type of thing we ask this question. Everyone listening is going to think that I'm a pretentious prat. But I must reiterate, before I divulge my choices and you judge me for being some sort of a musical this, that, or the other, I've said it on every single podcast. I cannot stress this enough, that music is not there's no music in my life anymore. Now, I was thinking about, and a result of that.
That always blows my mind.
I've no time for it. No time. All right? You want the content? I don't gotta listen to no music. We're all happy. It's fine.
Okay.
Now, I was thinking a biopic of binaural beats to study to would be very endearing. It could be 3 hours, very relaxing, chill. Like, who is the person in the headphones looking at their notes? What are they studying? Do they like the beats as much as I do? But my real answer was, because I genuinely think he's one of the most fascinating people ever.
I've got a theory on who this is, by the way.
Oh, yeah? Who do you think I'm going to say?
Beefheart.
You are. You're very correct, sir. Captain Beefheart. And the reason is that I grew up when I was listening to my dad listen to Captain Beefheart. I was like, what's he listening to in there? And then I finally got into Captain Beefheart myself. And he's a very, very, very odd man. Do not listen to his music. It's horrible. It's so, yuck, the word. But he was someone who I kind of thought I'd figured out because I'd read all these books about him making this really weird album, Trout Mask Replica, which was a horror show that involved them covering their rooms in tinfoil, eating nothing but a diet of lima beans, and members of the band being thrown downstairs. And I thought, you know what, though, at least I'd figured it all out. And then I found out he was a shoe store manager before he signed. And I'm like, who is he? And then he went off to live in the desert and paint, and that's all he'd been doing for before he passed away. And
Wow.
the last known recording of him is him on a phone going, "Happy Earth Day to you." And I just want to know, like, it's selfish because there's a story there that Wikipedia can't do justice, and I need to
Yes.
find it out. That's my main takeaway from it.
And a lot of these films are just sort of a band's Wikipedia article, the movie. With Captain Beefheart, the movie would have to be weird. The movie would have to be strange.
There's an interview with David Letterman where he spends 10 minutes talking about why he always wears a hat, because every musician is a machine, and if you don't have a hat on, the steam will come out. And the problem is, though, Sam, could you imagine the wankers and cunts who they'd have playing it? It'd be the worst of the all Egypts with hats and fucking, oh, Jesus now. Stop it. No, actually, no, go back to the binaural beats. I want that one instead.
So my answers were less fun and interesting. I'm a big Blur fan, so it would be tempting to go for Blur, but I don't think their story is actually interesting enough.
Not even the war with Oasis, and like, and we could all like that's you could tell the natural story about how the real enemy was enemy all along.
I feel like that would be quite fun, but it would just be one of those Wikipedia article, the movies, I think.
And then they had a soccer match, and the readers of Smash Hits were very intrigued.
And then Alex James went and made some cheese, and the cheese actually tasted quite nice. But I was thinking the Sex Pistols, right?
That's got to have been done, right? Surely.
I feel like... So there's Sid and Nancy, which is about Sid Vicious. I don't know if there's a thing just about the Sex Pistols, like a fictional account of them.
I bet there is, and I bet it's shit.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of... there could be something in there. And I was thinking maybe George Michael, just because my dad's a big fan, and he'd absolutely love watching a George Michael movie, 100%.
And they would absolutely call the movie Faith. They absolutely would.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you can picture it. You can
probably
picture it.
already is out, and we just don't know it. It's on
It'll be
some
greenlit.
streaming.
It'll be being produced now. Yeah, you can just imagine what that would look like. I think that would slot nicely into the current trend for those sorts of pictures. But it's a really interesting question. And I think, there's some band stories which would be, or musician stories that would be suited to film, and some that just kind of wouldn't.
I think if it's a good biopic, you shouldn't need to care really that much about who the actual artist is. I got a little bit more of an appreciation for Elton John, who I like his music. I was never like a big fan of any sort, really. So I think if it's done right, like a documentary, if it's about a subject that matter that's interesting enough, you should be able to make that interesting to everyone, even if you don't like George Michael.
So thank you very much for that question, Jamie. That was a
great
question. Will writes the following. What film from a past swirl or swill would you like to receive the Disaster Artist / The Room-esque film? So I think this means like a film about the making of a film that we've watched. Now, from Swell to Cinema Swell, which we do over on Patreon, patreon.com/Cinema Swell.
How many episodes are there as of recording where we are at now in 2021 March?
I think 27 swells.
How about that? Oh, I love doing Cinema Swill with you. God, half the joy of Cinema Swill is that a lot of those movies have got ridiculous stories behind them. I think the obvious answer is got to be Birdemic, right? I mean,
yeah, but Birdemic would be interesting.
Perplexing to watch. And then we were reading the stuff about like the people holding the mics between their legs while they were doing the shoot.
Yeah.
I would say something like Plan 9, but they actually already covered that quite brilliantly in Ed Wood, which I think is Tim Burton's Sleeper, one of his best movies ever, to be honest.
Okay.
Troll 2, there was a great documentary about. I don't know what could be really gained by dramatizing that. That's the thing. A lot of these things are like movies where the stories are so articulately told by genuinely fascinating weirdos. Like Troll 2 doesn't need a disaster artist because it's got documentary about it that already tells the story as clearly as you would ever want it told.
Yes. One that a little curveball I want to throw this will never happen.
Don't tell me King Arthur Legend of the Sword. No. I swear to fucking God.
I wish King Arthur The Legend of the Sword.
And then Guy Ritchie is played by Jason Statham and he's like, right lads, great take, let's do another.
I'd love that.
I know you would.
But my curveball, this could never happen, this will never happen. would be, which is something we did on Swill, the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Oh, yes.
I want to know everything about how that happened. I don't care if it's dramatized, because I imagine all the footage, like all the kind of behind the scenes footage, if there was any, has been fucking destroyed. But if they could, like, even just an oral history of what the fuck happened there would be fascinating to me. I want to know everything about that.
I want the scene where Harrison Ford, portrayed by, you get the guy who played him in Solo, bring out that guy, and him interacting with one of the many random celebrities of the day. Hey, him and Johnny Boop from the Arm & Hammer Hour. Yeah, those two. When they spoke, what the fuck was that like? Because I need to know. That's a good call, Sam. That's a very good call. And you know what? Disney have probably already optioned it, and it's streaming soon.
I don't think Lucas... Well, he's not got his firm grasp anymore, has he, on Star Wars?
No, George Lucas is a gas now, for all intents and purposes, So
maybe some holiday special content could eventually seep out into the public consciousness, and I'd be all for it.
I would be happy with a tell-all documentary about that. That's actually more likely. I think, I'd state my claim on it. Within the next 5 years, Disney are going to either do a screening with an explanation, or they're going to provide... We're sorry, but they're gonna have to address it, and I think there's money to be made from it,
Yes,
and I want my $1 billion media company. Come on, $1 trillion. Let's do it, folks. Come on, yeah.
I think the Swells are much more interesting in that regard than perhaps the Swells. I guess maybe like any Kubrick stuff would always be interesting to see some portrayals of, but then it might be a bit horrible to watch.
With stuff like that, I'm better off not knowing at this point, aren't I?
Yeah. So thank you for that, Will.
Fabulous question, and you can send those, of course, as always, to cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
Well, Sam, I've got my pumpkin carved out. I've got a big bag of candy, and I'm going to go eat Canona because I'm Irish. Let's go do Halloween Cinema Swirl. Sorry, it's not Spooky Swirl. You can't help me. It is a spooky time indeed. Sam, initial gut-wrenching reaction to Halloween.
Yeah?
Oh,
no! Yeah.
What's wrong, Sam? Talk to me.
I think it's better if we just if it unfurls as we get through this.
Oh, no. If you go to a parent-teacher meeting and they sit down and go, how's he getting on there? And you go, well, let's just get through and we'll talk
Brings
about
out a big list.
a big thick binder with a laminate front. Oh, good God, no.
I wasn't blown away, per se. That's not to say I didn't like it, but I wasn't blown away. That's what I will say up top.
Okay.
The other thing I'll say up top is, of course, I know that fucking music.
Goals, goals.
Of course I know that. I don't think I was a million miles away with my Jurassic Park Twilight Zone.
Yeah, no, that's a pretty believable.
Feels like a good intersection.
There. Yeah, it's a fusion of sorts. I think. Yeah, no, that works. That works well. I think it is gotta be one of the most earwormy themes we've ever had on this little film podcast. Let me tell you,
it gets in there. It really does. It's good.
Not just the music as well, though, because the theme is obviously fabulous. Old Johnny C in his work shed working away on that music. on get this, all of the instruments, all wooden synthesizers, would you believe? And that rich timber quality of it. That's because it's a wooden.
It's literally timber.
But I want to make special mention because this is the first time I was watching this movie explicitly thinking about you and your reaction. And every time something went, I thought of you for some reason, because it's as if Miles, God rest his soul, had like run across a synthesizer. There was a lot of that. It's very skittish, the music in this.
Very skittish. And I tell you what, I enjoyed the music. Not to bury the lead, but I enjoyed the music. Did he do the music for The Thing as well, John Carpenter? Is he
did, yes.
Director, composer. That's a thing I don't know. Can't think of any other examples in movies of that. It's very much a video gamey thing. I know there's lots of like programmer, developer, and composer. There's some of those, mad auteurs who do everything.
Stardew Valley, that video game is what I could think of where the person is equally gifted in game design as music. And I think John Carpenter, as good a musician as he is a director in terms of scoring, particularly this horror movie genre with his own little touch to it, because synth is obviously something that we enjoy a lot in this when it's very silly. And when it's very plinky plonky, it does get very silly. But I did want to find out if the plinky plonkiness made you go ooh and ah, or he and he instead.
Again, I think we'll have to consult the binder later through this session. There are some talking points we're going to have to bring up, but this is not negative, okay? This is just constructive. There's some interesting things there. But broadly speaking, I like the music. I enjoy the music a lot.
God, I'm fucking intrigued about this now. I'm very, very intrigued. I mean, I think something that's very apparent from this, and maybe something I should have prepared you for more, was when this movie came out. We're talking about a movie of the late 70s, and I think this unfortunately falls in that perfect Venn diagram of ahead of its time, but also so influential that almost every trick it had in its book you'd probably seen done to death a million times elsewhere.
Yes, and I think we've had some stuff like this before on Swirl.
Yeah, that has happened before.
We've kind of watched the originator of tropes that have been iterated upon in future.
How now?
I know, in future film. So there was a little bit of that to this, but I don't want to be super negative. The music and the title sequence, the fucking jack-o'-lantern and the font, the very simple, just slow zoom in. Loved that. Absolutely loved that. That must be iconic, right?
Oh, yeah, right. It is. The jack-o'-lantern's one of the most iconic images in all of gourd-based horror, And I would say I always found that to be a particularly unsettling image, that pumpkin, because specifically of how it's carved, kind of like, it's got like a cleft palate almost because of how it's been cut at the end.
Yeah.
However, I believe I mentioned on this very podcast before that I had finally taken part in pumpkin carving a few years ago as part of that Halloween tradition, and this one looks uncannily like the pumpkin I made to look like my dad. So I think we may have to pop on a social a side-by-side comparison of this spooky pumpkin and then my pumpkin dad, and then maybe later a picture of my dad for true cross comparison. All these three circular things can come in together.
Just a slow zoom on your dad with that music in the back.
It could be like Animorphs, but my dad turning into a pumpkin. Vagomorphs.
Very cool intro. I really liked. We've got introducing Jamie Lee Curtis. This is the first. Well, I guess breakout role, first big role for JLC.
And it's really funny that Jamie Lee Curtis, who was the perfect embodiment of woman in her kind of 30s, 40s, who had that absolute streak of awkwardness running right through her like a stick of rock, and here she is playing a teenager with that exact scale, roll back the tape deck on that awkwardness. How would that awkwardness look if they were a teenager? Oh, there we go. Perfect. She's so fucking good at that.
Yes, she's very good in this. I think it's very clear that this is like an early in her acting career, perhaps, is what I might say. But that's fine. Yeah. I mean, it literally is. So that's okay. Oh, hey, a thing I like doing that I've started doing a bit more when we do these, looking for cool names in the credits. And speaking of cool names, Cool Lusby. The first name, Cool, with a K.
Whoa.
Second name, Lusby. Cool Lusby.
What is he, an animated cat? That's a fucking banging ass name right there, let me tell you. Wow.
Lusby.
Cool
Associate producer,
Lusby.
Cool Lusby. Yes, please.
This is my associate, Cool Lusby. You mean that fellow in the background with the hat with the feather in it and the big sunglasses and the stripy suit?
That
Seems
guy.
like a pretty cool dude.
He's cool. Oh, yeah, he is cool, but what's his name? No. He is cool.
When you said something I want to try and start doing more, I thought you meant sing classic Halloween theme songs like goblins and ghosts and ghouls.
we're back in the 60s. It's Halloween 1963. The kids are singing for Halloween. And again, like tropes we've seen later on, but still very effective here. That first person, creepy, voyeuristic camera shot of like...
There has been something of a theme of voyeurism on Cinema Swirl as of late. What's that all about?
I don't know what's happening.
Maybe we should update the logo so we both have like binoculars in it or something like that. This first person stuff always gives me a queasy tummy. You know?
Yeah, it's yucky. And this first bit, I mean, there's music that comes in later, but this bit in silence.
Oh, the use of silence in this movie, like when they stop the music to reduce tension, but also to increase tension, is pretty masterful stuff indeed.
That whole first person thing of what we see our point of view grab a knife. There is a tiny little bit where the camera operator sort of shakes the camera a little bit as if they've just tripped over the sofa slightly, which I did enjoy. I think that adds some authenticity to it. I think if you were a murderer, you might trip over, especially if you go into a house that you've not been in before, in the dark. You know, you can knock over on things. That's fine. Now, there's some teens making out, and then they head upstairs, and then the teen boy leaves. And then that guy goes upstairs, gets a clown mask that these two had been dicking around with. And, you know, horror stuff, stabbing a topless teenage woman.
When I said I wanted to see things from his point of view, I didn't blooming mean seeing all these grisly murders, because there was a lot of stabbing indeed.
The stabbing sound effect, they go... It's a bit...
Oh, I've got it here. It's slimp, slimp, slimp. S-L-I-M-P. That is the noise. And actually, it starts off as a slimp, but as it gets more bloody, it becomes more of a slump. Right.
You start out slimping and then you end up slumping. It's slimp, slimp, slimp.
Aaron, look at the little murderer, Aaron, now. Here with his little shoes.
Genuinely, I was like, oh, what? It's a child? Whoa! Like, my mind was actually blown by that twist. That was, you know, if the film had ended there, I'd have been like, well done, guys. Fabulous stuff. I did not see that coming. And
are you telling me this movie peaked a bit too early for you? Is that it, Sam?
It was a good reveal, you know? Save that for the end, guys. Come on. But yeah, didn't see it coming. The family are like, Michael, what are you doing? And they just stand there for a bit as the camera gets to kind of, you know, move out. But the family just kind of look at him like, what have you done?
Look what you've done here now. And you lick the tissue and rubbish all over him. You've made a bloody show of me murdering people here now. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
Now, this might be a bit grim.
Oh, there's going to be a lot of grim chow in this one. Yeah, for sure.
I wanted to describe him in this instance as a child murderer, but that seems to be the wrong way around. That implies...
You're literally mincing your words here. That's what's happening here now.
Is he a murderer child? I think he's a murderer child. He's not a child murderer.
I was about to say, does that make him a murderer prodigy because he's so young that he's done it?
And then the Prodigy did that video where it's first person and the reveal at the end surprises you. So it all kind of ties in together.
Kind of loosely tied together. Yeah.
Love that twist.
Okay,
great
how about
stuff.
this one? Murdererling. Because the ling at the end usually means, like, you know, we had younglings.
Little ones. Yes.
Murdererling. And the thing is, it's so hard to pronounce. It's just a silly thing that, like, kids just don't do it. You don't want to have that label
Don't
growing
be labelled
up.
a murdererling.
Murdererling. Check out that bogus doofus over there.
And so now we're in present day, which is late 70s.
1978, or I was minus 10 around here, which was quite an age, let me tell you, Jesus.
We're heading up with a doctor and I think a nurse towards a maximum security hospital.
All right, I gotta shout out my boy Donald Pleasance. We got Blofeld in the house. He's Dr. Sam Loomis. I love, this is one of my, he's in, like, I don't know if he's in every single one of the Halloween movies, but he's in a frick load of them. And one of your finest exports from your country, where I find myself currently.
Thank you.
What did you think of him? He's he's such a trope, obviously, in these horror movies now, where it's like, I'm the slightly older, distinguished English gentleman who knows what's going on.
Trying to figure things out. He filled that role greatly, did exactly what he needed to do in this. Again, not like, I wasn't like, whoa, what a standout performance from Donald Pleasance here, but I enjoyed it.
I'm realising right now that I just have this absolute, like, nostalgia crust over my enjoyment of the movie, because... I have absolutely nothing to say back to that other than I really like
what do you like about his performance?
I like that he is kind of like, he's a bald man with a tweed jacket. I just really like him. I
like
do.
it. You
I
like
like
it.
it. I
Yeah.
do.
Nothing wrong
what are you
with
gonna
that.
do? Like, I don't have to explain myself to you. You know.
No. And he's referring to Michael Myers as it rather than him, which is interesting. The idea of him being a monster, a kind of inhuman thing.
He's been mute for 15 years, Sam. Not a word he's spoken, looking through the walls, thinking about what he's going to do. He is speaking in the most overt, convoluted terms about the evil that is forthcoming. And, you know, it's a great chat to have as you're driving in the rain towards a spooky state hospital.
It's dark and rainy and creepy. And then there's like people wandering around in the, I was going to say front garden, but that's not what I mean. The kind of... sort of grassy bit at the front, and that it's a carjacking.
A boosting, I believe, is what they call it.
The booster himself, Michael Myers, gets on the roof of the car, grabs the nurse out of the car, big horrible shrieking musical sound effects / cue. That's a cat sitting on a synthesizer. That is like,
yeah.
God, yeah.
Those are the noises I make if I'm made to do something I really don't want to do when I'm really tired. Like if a doorbell goes really early in the morning, for instance. Yeah. You know, which acts as a doorbell for everyone else in a sense, you know?
And so the car's been nicked, Michael's got away, and you think, oh, that's fine. But then you realise, oh no, it's Halloween tonight. Today's Halloween. Oh no, when he did that stabbing when he was a kid on Halloween. So
I wonder, like, how common it is with serial killers and all that. This is the problem now. I'm not that into serial killers. You're not that into serial killers.
I'm not a serial killer.
I'm also not. Just for the record, I am not a serial killer, and we have that now officially on the podcast.
That's what they would say, though, isn't it?
No more inquiries about that. Thank you very much. It's been stated for the record, on the record, about that notion. So, I've always wondered, and we're probably speculating with the wrong people. We need Billy Keeble here because he's obsessed with murder.
Right.
We need. I was always running this whole like anniversary business. Is that common, or is that just like
amongst killers?
I mean, it's a little bit obvious, guy, because I'd be kind of on edge on the anniversary of a murderer, you know,
I'd do it the day before. I'd do it the day before the anniversary to really throw everyone off.
It seems like the murdering anniversary is coming earlier and earlier this year. It'll get too commercialised then. No,
or I suppose the day
this.
after when everyone's guard has been let down, they're like, oh, he's not coming back. Ah, no.
You've missed the rush then, you know. You've missed it.
I don't know how much that crops up in actual cases of bad murder.
Yeah.
But it seems like a thing in scary stories about people who are coming to get you that, you know.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Particularly in these horror films. Hey, we mean Laurie, which is the protagonist of the movie.
Yes.
And she's the best goddamn babysitter on the planet. She's unshakable. She's unflappable. And you know what? I have heard tales from Joe about the fucking absolute ride of a time it is being a babysitter. It sounds like a good time indeed. Sometimes she says that she got to do babysitting and the kids were already in bed when she shows up. You just have to literally
be in a house.
You got to sit around like a baby. Like, that's all you got to do. Unbelievable.
Hence babysitting.
And that's why I thought, you know, I had already heard Bad Babysitter, the song, got my boyfriend in the shower making $6 an hour. I thought, it don't get much better than this whoop. And then I hear that they're already in bed. Jesus Christ, come on now.
Yeah, no, she's part of a friendship group of, I think, all babysitters. That's all they seem to do. They're just earning that sweet babysitter money.
Babysitter club, you know, this is what happens. If the babysitter club fucking knuckled down and left all that deep state nonsense to the side, right, and actually just... These guys have got it covered. They send the kids over to the other house. You wouldn't get away with it these days, mind. You would be like, oi, kids, go to the other house over there because we're not here anymore.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
These teens all had DBSs because it's a little bit sketchy how they're acting here.
It's dodgy, but, you know, back in the 70s, this was all fine, and this was how teenagers made money and made out with other teenagers by having houses where there aren't any adults there, so they can make out and do things.
So, like, you could literally pick up the phone as a teenager in the 70s and be like, I'm making out here, and it could have dual meaning in that sense, because you could be actively like, I'm getting a tenner for this, and you know, I'm just eating food and playing Space Invaders over here. Or they could be like, actually, you know, someone's tongue's around here at the moment, so just I am in the middle of that now.
I really enjoyed that there's this little dweeby kid, Tommy, who
Tommy. Oh,
yeah. So I call Jamie Lee Curtis's character Jamie throughout the whole thing. I apologise in advance, but
what always happens in this movie about all actors. So that's fine. That's just the way it is. Congratulate yourself on being such a star that your name of your character is irrelevant.
Yes, exactly. Her dad's selling the old Myers house, and so she's got to take a key back there and drop it off. And this little kid is like, "Oh, why are you going in there? That's a spook house." It is a spooky house. It does look spooky.
House?
Yeah.
I feel the dad did a disservice there. If you're handing the keys of any sort of a haunted property or any sort of a grisly property, I mean, come on, he's an estate agent. You'd think he'd be like, "Oh, this is one of those ones. It's one of those little red mark houses. You want to be careful about that." Come on now,
Yeah, no.
Got to be a bit more careful.
We get our first little bit of Mike. I'm going to call him Mike. Bit of his shoulder and a bit of his heavy breathing. I'm like, oh no.
He's got the type of heavy breathing that implies that he's got smelly breath. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it hangs in the air. Like, that leaves the equivalent of a breath footprint in a room for an hour after he's been there.
Breath. It's hard to imagine Michael Myers brushing his teeth, isn't it?
No, and as a result, he's got a very wet breath, Sam, is what you've got here in this movie. A very wet breath indeed. It's a damp breathing.
A wet footprint of a breath footprint. Mike, he's just kind of standing around looking creepy. He's like looking into the school at Jamie Lee Curtis when she's studying. I'm going to bring this up now. We get lots and lots and lots and lots of shots of Michael Myers standing there, looking, being creepy, or being in the dark somewhere, being creepy, just looking.
Yeah.
And I kept finding it funny, and I think that was my problem with this.
Is it because every time you see it, you think of that Lemmy sketch where he's like pointing, and you think you're getting zoom in, and Michael Myers going, "Oi!"
It is a lot like that. He just goes standing there at enough of a distance so that it just looked really funny to me. And his thing is, he stands there, you see him, you look away, you look back, he's gone.
Whoa.
He's vanished. Whether that's supernatural or not is another question entirely, but he can just vanish in an instant.
I wanted to ask you, firstly, did you recognize the iconic Michael Myers, the mask, kind of the stature, the things that he did? Was that like, oh yeah, I have seen that represented somewhere? Or where was it that you recognized it from?
The coveralls that don't quite cover all. They do cover all. Where have I seen it? You just see it. You go to fucking Forbidden Planet or something and you see it.
Yeah.
You go to the shop that was above where the cinema was in the corner house in Nottingham that sold various movie merchandise. You see it.
You go into a 40-year-old man's living room, you see it. It's there. You see it. It's
a limited edition figure of it. You see it. You see it a lot. Much like your Krueger.
Yeah.
And your other horror villains.
How does he rank, though, in terms of, like, I'm just going solely here on aesthetics. This is not a comment on the movie. This is just the character, Michael Myers, who you see fuck all of in the movie. You see him almost as little as Arnold Schwarzenegger speaks in The Terminator. That's how scant his appearances are. When you see him, it's very rarely you see the whole shimoli. You only get glimpses of him.
Yeah.
Did he have an impact for you, Sam?
It's a simple character design.
Yeah.
Therefore, quite recognisable and striking. Whether that had an impact on me in any other way beyond going like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I get it.
Is it like Freddy Krueger we said, or comes a point where something becomes so iconic it's incapable of being scary? You might as well see Darth Vader and be like, ah!
Yeah, and you get the Darth Vader-esque breathing.
That is true.
I was thinking, I'm not going to judge this guy until he has something to say for himself, and I was waiting the whole damn movie.
Did you like the supernatural / kind of implied, I guess, supernatural nature of his character? Because that, for me, that's what I got my teeth into when I first saw this movie.
So either he's got supernatural powers, or he's really tough and he can run fucking quick. Like, he's fucking quick at running out of the way and hiding.
It's funny that you say that, because this character here, Michael Myers, he's the basis for a very, very, very big popular wrestler, and someone who you probably would have seen when you were a kid if you watched wrestling at any point. Do you think you know who Michael Myers is, like, essentially the blueprint for in wrestling?
With the mat. Oh, Kane?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The heavy breathing, the silence, the kind of even like the head tilt and the way he kind of reacts. There's a little bit of Jason Voorhees in there as well, I guess. But yeah, Michael Myers is a big kind of part of that. And I think it's really funny because as a kid, Kane would often disappear and you would be left wondering, is he magic or is he just really fast?
And Kane had that tragic childhood backstory as well, didn't he?
He did, yeah. It was very based on that. So yeah, wrestling superstar Kane, Michael Myers are tied in that beautiful way in the sense that someone just nicked a load of stuff and put in a wrestling character, which is what we in the wrestling world called an homage. And you can't copyright an homage.
Sometimes you just take the whole name and just give them that name as well and just go with it. Some bullies are bullying that dweeb kid from before, telling him the boogeyman's coming. We're going to trip you over onto your big pumpkin that you wanted to take home.
Right, now, a bully who calls his shot like that is so, like... Come on. Because, I mean, there's going to be people like, oh, the bully, he's just doing it to be the centre of attention. Well, if he's going to be the centre of attention, he's not going to be like, hey, everyone, I'm going to do this thing and then do the thing. Like, where's the fucking surprise? If there's a pumpkin that's going to go, blah, do you want to be like, hey, everyone, this pumpkin's about to... Do you know anything of comedy, little boy? Anything at all?
I'm not sure if they actually, like, straight up said, we're going to trip you onto your pumpkin.
We're going to smash your pumpkin.
But they're like, stupid pumpkin, you're rubbish. But again, Mike's watching this kid. Mike's driving up alongside him, looking in at the school. Yeah. Don't be doing that, Michael. That's going to give people the wrong idea.
I would say for the late 70s when this movie came out as well, this was definitely a movie that really kind of, you know, it's a paranoid time, I guess, in the world, the late 70s particularly. You've been through the likes of, you know, you've got Vietnam War and Watergate and, you know, a lot of tension. There were riots in some of the cities, etc. So I kind of feel like this whole perfect suburbia and then just like the guy in the car is suddenly just there and just that presence alone is so unsettling.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've been watching old Twilight Zone stuff recently and they hit on that back in the 50s, but I think this is something that really, really, really is, for American audience particularly, I think in the 70s, is like glub, 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 glub. It is like pure hot wire to Horror Town, USA.
Something dark and weird coming into that suburban, and like, you know, something weird and creepy coming in to that perfect suburbia.
Oh, I do some of the suburbs I find really, really scary. I think it's just because like I had to commute at one point. I'm like, this is so scary, and like that's. And since then, I've thought the suburbs were like, not the place I thought they were when I was a wee boy. Let's just say.
I mean, David Lynch did some of that in Blue Velvet, didn't he? Like making that look kind of horrifying, like the kind of perfection of it look yucky. So, right, the doctor lad, Donald Pleasance. He's pleasant.
No, Pleasance is pleasant. I'm just saying he's pleasant.
He's pleasant.
It is very pleasant.
The doctor lad, he's found a dead mechanic with the matchbook that was in the car that Mike has nicked, right? So he's nicked the overalls off this mechanic, right? I was thinking, it's a shame, because I guess he had like a hospital gown or something on and had to change into, you know, semi-acceptable clothes. Not that there's anything wrong with that coveralls that I've said, like they are semi-acceptable, but he just needed something to wear. It's a shame that it was a mechanic. What if he'd have run into a baker or, you know... a chef with the big hat or something.
Or, spoilers for later, what if he ran into a spooky ghost and had to take their sheet? And then later on in the movie, he's like backed into a corner. He's nothing left to do. Can't change into anything.
It's a shame from a costuming perspective that he didn't take clothes off a clown. Oh, well, not a clown.
He's not Mr. Ben, Sam, all right? He's Michael Myers. Enough of this.
Okay.
I do like, all right, I will say, now little bits come to me. I was flabbergasted that you just accept that I love Dr. Loomis and he's the best. I do like the fact that there's this very, very slow basis of this kind of investigation that's happening in the background. That's believably slow enough. You don't think that this guy is like, he's not necessarily a dunderhead. Like for an hour 30 movie, him in the background slowly getting there closer and closer and closer. You don't feel like the cavalry is coming all the time, but you do get the sense that like there's at least some force of good out there. Because that's what stops this movie from just being like gross slasher flick as far as I'm concerned. Is that you do have this kind of, you know, trying to unravel what's actually happening going on in the background, and they reach kind of this conclusion point with it somewhat.
You don't spend loads of time with him, but every time you come back to him, he's getting a little bit closer towards, you know, Oh, he's getting close to figuring out where Michael Myers... I mean, he's already kind of ahead of the game. He's like, he's going to come back. He's going to come back to this town and he's going to do some killings. And everyone's like, nah, it's fine.
Yeah, but what's holding him back? It's what the sheriff refers to as fancy talk. He's got that bloody English in your fancy talk.
He does talk fancy, though. He does. He comes out with some cracking lines. Speaking of cracking lines, Jamie and her mates after school, she's forgotten her chemistry book, and her little mate is just like, oh, who cares if you forget your books? I forget my books all the time. My English book, my math book. What even are books anyway? I've never even heard of a book. Books are stupid. Who needs books? Down with books. Books are terrible. Meanwhile, Jamie's just looking at Michael Myers in the distance, but I love that the dialogue has to keep going. So you've got this character going, books are silly. I don't like books. Here's some books that I don't like.
Who needs books when we got cigarettes and cushy babysitting jobs?
I mean, the dialogue between most characters in this, but these characters in particular, is a little bit, you know...
Oh, yeah, it's corny
superfluous,
a little bit, yeah.
I think. I don't think there's much you can read into what's being said here in these kind of interactions.
It is a very focused movie. It's not concerned really with subplots or character development other than people, experience this horrible disturbance in their peaceful suburban Pleasantville.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not got a lot, like the other characters, I don't say they have much to offer, but the purpose they're there to serve is to be like, cannon fodder, for lack of a better term, I guess.
Yeah. And as they're walking around, we get Mike Myers again standing next to a bush, but then he kind of sidesteps behind the bush, and to me that was very funny. And now I've realised what would be even more funny is if you reverse that footage and he comes out from behind the bush, it's just like
you can speed up, you can slide out, he looks like he's meant to bust a move.
And like, I found this all a little bit, what am I trying to say, not hokey, not completely hokey, but a little bit, I mean, I imagine this is not a high budget horror film at all, and I think it's gone on to become a cult thing.
This is made for an absolute song, this thing. I remember it. That was one of the things I liked about it, because I love a good thrifty movie. If you can make like a movie that has an emotional impact of those sorts and you can do it without spending millions and millions and millions of dollars, I think that's a fantastic thing.
But some of the ADR, the dialogue kind of dubbed over it, is a bit loosey-goosey.
For me, like, it's the 70s, so like that gets a fucking clear pass for me, like, you know?
All right, but okay, so while they're walking around, it's a nice bright sunny day. Jamie gets bumped into by the cop dad of one of her friends.
I love this name, Sheriff Brackett. I don't know why.
Sheriff Brackett. The Sheriff Brackett, and he's the dad. And I tell you what, Kevin, I blame the parentheses, because that's the bracket.
Very good there now.
It doesn't.
Well, the way that he jumps up and scares Laurie here, I thought he was a square bracket, if you ask me.
Yeah. So, right, bright sunny day, she bumps into him. Once she walks off, it's rainy and there's rain on the ground. And come on, we need a little bit of continuity. It's literally sodden on the floor.
I've never noticed that.
Go back and watch that.
I've watched this movie like 20 times. I've never noticed that.
Before, when she's walking around and she's, talking about the books, bright sunny day, she bumps into him. Next bit, when she's still walking, it is wet. There's rain on the floor. It's like soaking wet everywhere. It's like a rainy day.
Never noticed.
Maybe I'm being a little bit too...
No, you notice stuff, though. I'm so oblivious to stuff like that. Like, unless I'm sitting down to watch something and you're like, it's directed by an absolute moron, I'm like, whoa! I'll be looking out. But otherwise, I will never notice.
I'm not going to go through every single time Michael Myers stands somewhere and then disappears.
And goes,
there's that noise. While Jamie's kind of freaks out, she gets a phone call with weird noises, but it's just her friend chewing.
Oh, you could fucking smell that breath down the line if it was Mike Myers. You know that, it'd be wafted out with the receiver.
But her friend has called her while chewing. I'm not buying that. I buy picking up the phone while chewing.
You and I come from a time where if you're going to call someone, it's almost come full circle, because I'm pretty sure like way back in the turn of the century when they first had phones, it's like, we're going to arrange to ring the phone and the person will be arranged to pick it up. That's kind of like how I use my phone now. I won't just pick it up willy-nilly. It's going to be like, all right, everyone, I'm going to use the phone. Back in the 70s, though, you just pick it up to breathe, because that's the only way to talk to anyone, Sam, and you had to talk. Because there were films now.
The phone was truly the WhatsApp of its time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The only people who were listening on that was not tech companies, just nosy neighbours. Tech companies, what if nosy neighbors became all powerful?
Oh, God. Oh, you wouldn't want to be living next to Zuckerberg, would you? Imagine the stuff he'd be nosing about.
It's as soon as you said, imagine living next to Zuckerberg, I just imagined myself looking into a window and seeing him in that white face paint going, oh!
Still on a surfboard, but just in his own house. A much scarier horror villain than Michael Myers. Dr. Mann, he's doing his investigations. He's going to the grave of Michael Myers' mum and dad, and he's got a little graveyard bloke with a nice denim jacket just saying, oh, don't worry about it, mate. There's children who murder in every town. But just the other day I was in some town and there was a child who murdered his fan, and he's like, no, shut up, let's have a look at this grave.
Oh, what happened to that child, you said?
Nah, it doesn't matter. Nah. Mike's sister's grave has been dug up, and so you think, well,
what's he going to do, Sam? Build a cage out of her bones?
Oh, no, it's not that the grave's been dug up, is it? It's because I thought, when I saw it, there's like a hole in the ground. I'm like, his sister must have been tiny. It's this little divot. But it's that he's removed the tombstone, the gravestone. Yeah. He's taken that out. That's what's happened. I thought the grave had been dug up, and I was trying to be like, has he just dug up a bit of it and just like got a bit? But he's taken the tombstone, and at that point I was like, oh, I'm scared of this guy. But on the radio in the car with the girls, don't fear the Reaper.
Sorry, more like we cut back to delinquent teens smoking drugs, listening to the music of the devil.
That's how Loomis would describe what was happening there. It's that kind of language that, you know.
They're literally a cult of blue oysters. It's a dead devil worship.
They're smoking a doobie while driving and listening to rock music. I'm not happy with that at all, especially when one of them has got a cop dad, Sheriff Brackett, who's just round the corner.
Just around the corner, and it turns out that they've only jacked the hardware store and some bits have been stolen there. They roll down the window and, Sheriff doesn't want to talk very much. I guess that makes him a closed bracket. Thank you very much. That is all of my operations for tonight. Make sure you thank your mathematician. Thank you.
He's saying that someone broke into the hardware store and, it's bloody kids. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, all they stole was masks, rope and knives. So it can't be anything serious. Wait a minute, Sheriff.
Well, yeah, maybe Sheriff, I just hypothetically, maybe someone puts on a mask, ties someone up and stabs them.
Hold
That's
on a minute.
An possibility.
Sheriff of the police. You can't just be like, just some kids nicking some rope, masks and knives and that's fine.
All right, you know what they need to do? They need to remove the brackets here because... Or deal with the brackets first, as BEMDAS/BOMDAS told us to back in school.
Is this a maths?
It's a maths thing, Sam, yes, and I'm fucking delighted if you can't tell.
Hey, I want to point out, because I've slagged off some not great movie-making stuff going on here with some continuity, but there's a shot of Jamie Lee Curtis and her mate driving around during that kind of golden hour as the sun's coming down, the sun's setting, and it just looks really good. They're just in the car, driving around with the sunset coming down. It just looks great.
It's odd, though, all you're harping on about continuity errors, and yes, there was a continuity of me enjoying this movie for the full 90 minutes. I don't understand. That's... No errors spotted, mate. Sorry.
And so, two of our favourite characters from this, Brackett and Loomis, they're teaming up. They're getting together now to go and look at the old house and just have a look at it. Is that what they're doing? They're just going, we'll just check it out in case he's hiding in there.
This is what's going to happen. Something's going to happen in the house. And the sheriff's like, I don't want to stay in the bushes all night. I want to go and, upset all these rowdy teens and ruin their Halloween.
Yeah.
And so, they are together. They're waiting. But he's letting them know that he's had just about enough of this fancy talk. Yeah? Just about enough.
Less fancy talk, more fancy action.
And actually, literally, right after, he's like, all right, no more of this fancy talk. He's like, yeah, that's fine. Can I tell you, though, about the evil I saw in this boy's eyes?
Yes. The blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. What was living behind those eyes was purely and simply evil. And that's it for fancy talk from me. I just needed to get that out of my system. Thank you very much, Sheriff Brackett.
Oh, what's this? Ooh, it's time to clock on in the babysitting factory. Oh, it's back in the glory days with good wages for this. Let's clock on, sit down, watch a movie, eat food, read comic books. Oh, sorry, no, we do have to also carve a pumpkin, which is legitimately fun.
Yes.
As demonstrated by Halloween activities of years past.
Also, I just want to point out, in that last sequence in the house, I got my first proper scare that I went, oh, because something smashed through the window as they were looking around. There's a little silent bit, and then something went through the window. It just something fell in. It wasn't. I don't even think it was Michael. I went, oh. Hey, it got me a little bit.
And then you went, I don't even think it was Michael.
That wasn't Michael. That was not Michael.
No.
But yeah, the babysitting routine looks pretty damn sweet. The comic books being read, Laser Man, Neutron Man, Tarantula Man. I mean, so how these haven't been developed into blockbuster movie franchises, I will never know.
I mean, probably what happened was there was some up-and-coming comic book artist who had all these great ideas, and then they saw this movie like, damn it.
For fuck's sake.
Back to the drawing. And that person's name was... Stanley Kubrick. What?
Big twist. Big twist. Bigger
Halloween,
twist than
baby.
Kill a bigger child. Yeah, the babysitter stuff going on. All these girls are ringing around to each other. There's a dog barking. The little kid thinks he's seen the boogeyman. He has seen the boogeyman, though. He's seen the boogie. Is it boogeyman? Bogeyman. Boogie.
Boogeyman.
Boogie.
No,
Bogey.
what bogeyman is
man.
when a surfer dude is working radar in a war scenario, like there's a bogeyman, like that's what that is. Boogeyman, right. I believe, is the scary, yeah. And a booger man is just, you don't want to know about that.
No. So Mark Zuckerberg on his little board in the water, he's a boogeyman because he's on a boogie board, just doing a bit of boogieing. I see what you're saying. He's like, the boogeyman is genuinely frightening.
Frightening.
Yeah, he thinks he's seen the boogeyman.
The boogeyman, was that a thing? Was that a thing like when you were growing up? Was that something which you were like, did you get a pamphlet like Your Child and the Boogeyman? Like, that's kind of like can prep you. Was that something that was ever used as a term around the house? What is it?
I only ever heard that in American cartoons or films and stuff. I never really encountered boogeyman as a thing over here.
I'm pretty sure it was used as a kind of a playful, like, ooh, the boogeyman, like, or,
right.
If it was a silly noise you hear. Yeah, oh yeah, that.
Yeah, it must be the boogeyman.
But it was a joyful thing, the boogeyman. This child here being so scared was such a silly term.
Right.
Maybe it's another boogeyman. I think he's a funny guy. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, Boogeyman's coming. Hey, he's here.
Oogie Boogie in the house.
No, not like this. Not the sort of boogeyman who's looking in through the window at a teenager taking her clothes off, which is what bloody Mike's doing here. He's looking in at Jamie's mate across the street.
So yeah, he is across the street there, the boogeyman, and he is there. He's leering around. He's breathing like an unethically bred dog. But that's only because he's after killing a dog as well. Now he's all hyped up and he needs to stare at people and breathe even more heavily.
The dog death just made me sad. Jamie's mate was like, oh, this dog keeps barking. I wish it would shut up. And then Mike goes and shuts it up. But little doggy. Or big doggy.
That was your first awe of the movie. So you've had a what and an awe.
My next thing was they're watching The Thing. They're watching The Thing, which has not come out yet, right?
If you remember, I'm pretty sure I told you in the episode, The Thing was technically a remake of a movie from the 50s where they find a UFO in the ice. And what's really cool about it is that awesome iconic title that we raved about in that episode, which is he did by burning bin bags, I believe, and then and just shining a light behind it and then filming it in slow-mo. But that is the same sequence, the same title as in the 50s, The Thing, which I think is really cool. I like that because it's rare that the font for something that's an old 50s, like, there's an alien, that type of a scary movie, and the horror show that was the allegedly 3-star wipe movie, The Thing. It is pretty cool that there's that kind of, commonality between them.
I am worried now you're going to encourage our listeners to go out and burn bin bags in the hope that it'll come out with a title sequence that looks like this. Because I was thinking,
no, you have to we on it to say The Thing first in perfect lettering,
and then burn the we,
and then burn the we.
Yeah, they're watching The Thing. Again, I kept finding shots of Michael Myers too funny. There's a bit where Jamie's mate is trapped in a laundry room and the kids in the house too busy watching telly to notice, but then she eventually gets sent to go and get her. And so now they move all the children over to one house.
Yes,
all of the children
move
in one house.
Annie basically finds out that she's got a hot date, so she's like, I'm going to leave this little girl over with Laurie. And Laurie, the whole thing is that she's like, they keep calling her the Girl Scout because she's, always very well prepared and whatnot. But also, she's considered to be the dull one of the group, the bookish one, the person who's not going to go out. And she gets set up on this date and she's like, oh, don't do that.
There's that thing before where they're like, oh, I forgot my chemistry book. She actually cares about books, unlike these other girls who are like, I hate books. Books don't even
know
exist.
What books even are, Sam? What even is a book?
Yeah.
Now, I was wondering if it's against some sort of a babysitter code to, redistribute the children like this.
I feel like that's not on, but sure, okay. It was a different time. You could just kind of. It's like the thing with the fox and the seed and
the grain
and the grain. And you have to try and move the children to one house so that you can get off with your mate in the house. Not get.
I'm pretty sure there is a different version of those rules or the answer to that riddle when Mike Myers is there on one side and you're trying to transport the grain. He's there.
Looking quite funny.
Oh, now he is kind of funny, isn't he?
Yeah, and so now we've got Annie, I think.
Yeah, Annie gets in the car.
Yeah.
And, okay, one thing I will say, which is kind of silly, and I think we're going to have to put a disclaimer at the start of this episode because we're talking so flippantly about murder. But the murders do, it's something that made me laugh as a kid, and it makes me laugh still. Because the acting when they die is hilarious. They're gurning.
Oh no, I've been murdered.
They are reacting to being murdered how most people reacted to being gunged at the Nickelodeon Kids' Choice Award. Like,
yes.
No. And at the end, all right, you got me, guys.
I mean, the murders, well, they're all kind of silly.
Oh, they are. No, they are. They're all very silly. And they get sillier because this is, and I can't believe I have to say this is the murder that attempts least to be sexy compared to the others, which try increasingly more difficult to be sexy. And I will say, you're working up against it there now when you're trying to make the murder of someone appear sexy. It is absolutely ridiculous. But you know what? I'm at the point here when I watch movies like this and going, I'd rather that it is kind of silly and ridiculous because I didn't know how much I'd enjoy this movie if I was seeing very realistic, very graphic murders of young women in states of undress. I don't know if that would be my jam, quite frankly.
In terms of the depiction of murder here, we'll get into the other ones. There's not that much graphic violence, really, or much
That's
gore.
using that music again to give you that, and that's the other thing, it's counting on you seeing it and being just in a mild state of shock of some sort, and then to amplify with the, it is so much of the music there. I think that's pretty evident that John Carpenter, when you're doing the directing and the music, this movie is a lot more scary seeming than it probably has any rights to be than any other kind of slasher movie from the 70s with a seemingly basic plot. I think he gets, because of the music, extra scare points. But that being said, I've watched this movie so many times, I have this memory of being in a really dark room super late at night watching this and being scared because, I watched it on Halloween and all that jazz,
I guess it's the Jaws principle of being a bit sparing with your actual villain and also, in this case, actual violence. There's not, don't go too far into it, just kind of use what else you have.
It's not a gory movie, but it's not a gory movie,
No. For ostensibly a slasher, there's not that much slashing, which I don't mind. That's
they call it a slasher. At most, it's a slitter of a movie because there are some thin lines of blood.
Yeah.
Like they've been attacked in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, and there's these very thin red lines appear now and then. So we're going to call this a slitter, I believe.
So Dr. Mann, he's now the one weirdly standing behind bushes and scaring away children because he's outside the Myers house and there's some kids trying to come in and he's like, oi, fuck off. They all...
Yeah, he tries to sound like kind of a tough American and he's like, hey, what you doing in my place, boy? And
he looks
kid's like,
kind of proud of himself after he's done it. He's like, just a little smile.
I've observed these Americans for many years and learnt their ways.
And then the sheriff comes back and he's saying something like, death has come to your town, sheriff, and it's whether you choose to deal with it.
What did we say about the fancy talk?
Oh. And now we've got one babysitter murdered and we've got another one coming in to sneak into the house with her boyfriend.
These are literally running around going,
Yeah, they're sneaking around. We're going to have sex now. Sneaking into a house. But there's nobody there. It's dark. This boyfriend lad looks a little bit like Mark Hamill.
I tell you what, it was our mildest voyeurism yet on the episode when they were making out while there was a jack-o'-lantern watching. And it made me realise I don't think I'd be comfortable at any degree of that if there was a jack-o'-lantern in the room. Maybe that's because the only jack-o'-lantern I've made looks like my dad. I don't know. That's even worse, probably.
Yeah, they're having intimate bedroom time and there is a full-on lit jack-o'-lantern on the bedside table in the bedroom just looking at them. But they're distracted enough by what's going on that when a kind of shadowy figure enters the room, they don't notice. The lad gets sent off to get post-coital beer in the dark. I would have popped the lights on, but he goes down in the dark. And Mike Myers, one big stab to this guy. One big stab.
Zup.
Pinning him up to the door. Like, and he's like now on the door. He's like pinned to the door. I tell you what, another cool shot, the silhouette of the two, that like kind of side on of both of them.
Yes.
Mike Myers kind of tilting his neck and just staring at this guy as he's dead or dying.
Oh, I love that. He's so fucking weird.
That was creepy. Yeah.
It's creepy, right?
Yeah, that was creepy.
You gotta give it that little bit of extra sprinkle of forgiveness because of when the movie came out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
you know?
I know. Now that creepiness, that kind of, oh God, this guy's weird. It's kind of not ruined, not subverted, not changed by the fact that the idea of Michael Myers dressing up as a ghost and putting the boyfriend's glasses over the sheet that he's got. I mean, that is funny. Thinking about him doing that.
You had already thought of him a figure of comedy. There was no way. He made you laugh every time you see him at this point. Obviously him in a sheet looking like a cute ghost. I mean, I thought it was a bold move to spook her to death after stabbing all of his other victims, but you know, he's got many methods. That's why he's a scary classic Hollywood ghoul.
And he's just standing there not saying anything. She's like, well, have you got my beer? What are you doing, mate? And he's not saying anything.
Oh no, I'm being murdered. No. And you know what as well? I think a murder is one of the least sexy things there is, and I'll go on record for that, folks, right? Yeah, I know. I'm going to leave the politics out of it, and I'm going to say it needs to be said, hey, don't push the cancel button just yet, yeah?
Your words, not mine, mate. That's your hill to die on, all right?
But they managed, even with murder being the least sexy thing there is, they managed to make it less sexy by trying to make it sexy. Does that make sense? The only thing less sexy than a murder is a sexy murder. That is the least sexy thing there is.
Yeah, it felt very odd. I mean, so we've got Mike Myers choking this girl whose breasts are exposed, and
Carpenter, you big dirty freak.
Dying. And I mean, we can touch on the horror movie trope that has, I think, spun off from this of just sex of any kind.
Slasher movies and sex, because it's always like sexy teens making out and getting stabbed, and you've got
being
this
punished
Friday the 13th.
for sexuality. Yeah.
We also saw it in Nightmare on Elm Street as well, obviously. It's absolutely of the time.
Yeah.
And this is not the first movie to do it, nor I'm sure it was the last. And I'm sure, you know what, it absolutely was a selling point as well when they were saying this movie, like, and the sexy teens will get killed, right? Like, yes! What are we waiting for?
Which, I mean, that obviously has its difficulties and problems with it, and that murder in particular is just murder as kind of titillation. Yeah. That felt whatever the equivalent of on the nose is for whatever that scene. It's like, oh, okay, guys, we get it.
Gratuitous. That's
gratuitous.
The word.
There we go.
Thank you. Give me a gratuity for letting you know what that was.
It was that.
Thank you.
There you go.
There we go. Very much.
So the doctor has found the car, the car that Mike's been driving around. He's seen that car, and we're like, okay, what's going on here?
He's seen those boosted wheels before.
Yeah, and so we're back to Jamie, who's off to figure out what's happened to... Now, the teenagers who just got murdered, right?
Yeah.
They're called Bob and Linda. Now, I know it's the 70s. I know it's the late 70s, but those are still the oldest teenager names ever.
The thing though, right? This is like the 70s or whatever.
Yeah.
So they're all like old now.
They're
so if
old
you imagine
now.
you imagine them, they have to come from somewhere, don't they?
Yeah.
They don't just fucking sprout.
You just imagine that old people are always old, and they've always forever been old. But Bob and Linda would have been sneaking around.
Forever old. I wanna be forever old.
Tell you, Kevin, these two won't be forever old because they're dead. But Jamie's off to investigate what's gone on. Loads of quite a long thing of Jamie Lee Curtis wandering around a dark house.
No, you know what? Actually, I take back what I said earlier about it doesn't matter what you call them because they're a great actor and all that. So it's Jamie. Yeah. Go ahead, call it Jamie. He says like an idiot, and I got my best line. My best prepared remark.
Yeah.
Because she's called Laurie.
Yeah.
And I said, Laurie goes Lokin. Lauking. Looking. Laurie. Looking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I like it.
Laukin. It's a funny word when you look at the letters all together. It's like, what's going on here?
We'll put it up on the social, and people can look at the spelling of it, and then we can,
I'm really glad we switched to a scripted format. I think it's worked a lot better for us. I'm glad I took the suggestions of the people who said we've been doing it all along. I think that it has worked well for my brand of comedy.
So, Laurie's looking around, and she sees Mike Myers' sister's gravestone with her dead mate on the bed with the gravestone at the top of it. And then we get Bob and Linda popping up, falling out of cupboards and shit.
Did it make you go blue when she opened up the cupboard and he swung down? Because I remember that freaking me out when I saw that.
There was a little bit of, stop it, Bob. Get back up there.
So it basically made you react like a bus you thought was yours was coming, but it turned out to be another bus that you would use on a different day. What? Hey, oh.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
It's the what? Wait a minute, is that my bus? Hey, it's the bus I would not take today. You want to wish it well. It goes by. You're wishing it well on its journey there.
And I turned around to the people behind me and I said, sorry, I'm not actually, are you getting this? I can put my hand out for that. You getting it? I'm not getting it. I thought it was wrong one. So Jamie, and we established this in the pre-swirl and for True Lies, she's doing some really good so like scared and sad noises, the kind of combination of just being hopeless and terrified at the same time.
This is not me having a pop. I love her performance in this. I think she plays that kind of overwhelmed by fear very, very well.
Yeah.
But some of her, in South Park, the character Butters, when he's kind of nervous, he goes, that. And she was doing a little bit of that.
Yeah.
And that was my fault for recognizing that.
We get some actual slashing. We get a little slash across the arm. She gets slashed in the arm by Michael. Then takes a serious bump over the banister and down the stairs. Like,
S&T, the old slash and tumble. It's horrible because Michael Myers kind of he's not said he got supernatural strength, but he's got strength that it's very scary. It's of a large enough amount that you would be terrified if you were being pursued by someone with such a power at their disposal.
Pure and simply evil, this guy. There's a bit where Jamie is trying to get away. She can't get out of a door because there's a rake blocking it. And I feel like she was she couldn't get out of that door in the same way that a wrestler can't reach the title on the top of the ladder match thing because the other guy hasn't come up yet. So, and then when she needs to go, she can go.
Oh, this bit here now, when she gets out of the house and she starts running around the street. This is the bit that scared me probably the most when I first saw the movie, because the idea of running around a place where there are houses everywhere, you think you just go out and scream. Like, there is this kind of ignorant assumption, I think, particularly when you're younger, that like you just go out and you go and then all of a sudden like a million lights will come on and everyone will be like, what's going on here? Yeah. And when she's screaming and pounding on the door and like the lights go off and it's that's like,
it's Halloween.
It's
Halloween.
It's so goddamn. I don't want that to happen.
Look, on Halloween night, if I heard screaming and banging at the door, I'd think, kids, turn the lights off, pretend we're not in. I'd think that. And it could be Jamie Lee Curtis out there, and she's famous. But yeah, she's desperately trying to get back into the house with the kids to get away from Michael Myers.
She's got the needle, the knitting needle.
Oh, yeah. So she...
What's wrong, Sam?
Right. Michael Myers, as a murderer, is a little bit bumbling, kind. I know you're saying he's got superhuman strength and he's amazing, but like...
I wasn't amazing. I didn't sound common amazing.
You're saying he's like a superhero and he's your best mate and you love him. And I'm like, okay, great, but...
Your words, not mine.
But she gets him with the knitting needle, and then he drops the knife, and she gets the knife.
What's this charge of bumbling then? What is it? He gets he gets stabbed with a knitting needle, and all of a sudden he's a klutz. What's going on here?
I don't know. Well,
here, all right, counterpoint to you. And they say this. He's been since he was a little boy. He's been in this high security mental hospital and under lock and key, where he is probably not as coordinated as you or I with our dexterous fingers and our DualShock controllers.
He's just, I don't know. I just feel like he's not doing a great job here towards the end. He doesn't come across as a real threat to me. I don't know.
He doesn't stick the landing, is that it, Sam?
No. And also Jamie Lee Curtis, when she's got him with the knitting needle, he's down. She leaves the knife on the floor. I'm like, she picks it up, she got it, drops it again. I'm like, fuck's sake.
You can't kill the boogeyman, so you can't, as they say.
Meanwhile, in the background, Doctor and Brackett, they've figured out where Mike Myers is, so they're coming, but we don't know when.
She pokes him in the eye with the coat hanger. I like this. This is like that. The Girl Scout intuition is coming in here. She makes a tool, Gonna get a badge for that.
So that bit, hiding in the closet, MacGyvering a stabby thing out of a coat hanger, while Mike's outside of the closet just shaking it like, I need to get in here.
And those are the moments when they always said earlier the music stopping, like that's when she does the needle stab and when she stabs him in the eye as well, the music just stops, and it stops in that very much, you're all right now, it's A-okay. And jump scares are one thing, but I like it not just being a loud scare or whatever. It's the fact that they prep you for the kind of the scare as opposed to the scare itself is this big thing. I'm saying this to a man who was absolutely not scared by this.
No, and so there's a thing I wrote in my notes here, that the music is good, and there was some music used throughout some of these bits where Mike's got to be scary, but I was wondering whether I'm not sure if it's the right kind of tense or the right level of tense. I just wasn't filled with that tension in that. I can recognise that the music is good. I don't know if it's sacrilege for me to be like, it doesn't build that tension, or it doesn't.
Didn't work for you. It didn't work for you. That's fine.
It just didn't. And we're talking about the use of silence and stuff, but I think, I don't know, the scares, the tension, never really properly sold itself to me in this film.
You definitely have given the impression that it didn't do its job in that sense. It did not make you scared of this guy for whatever reason. I can totally see it. It's not unreasonable, though. I think that I wasn't scared either, but for very different reasons, I think. I wasn't scared because I was so scared many, many moons ago.
When she gets him with the coat hanger, I was just thinking, he's a bit shit. He's a bit shit. He's not great at this. And look, it's just a lad.
You have me feeling sorry for him now.
I know, and he's been in that.
He's only got the mind of a child. Leave
high
him alone,
security
you
hospital.
prick.
So, he can't say anything. He doesn't chat. I mean, he must have said stuff as a child before, and that will have been explored in sequels, I imagine. Like what Michael Myers might have said as a kid. He's got to have said something, and I'm sure he will say something later on in sequels to this. But that's by the by. Yeah. So Jamie, she's sending the kids outside, which is a brave move, to go and get a neighbour to call the cops. And thankfully, Loomis is there, noticing kids running and screaming, and uses his intuition to think, right, the bad stuff's going on in that house. I'm going to go in there and see what's up.
So it's like the third comeback of Mike Myers, and he gets shot not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 times. He gets the old Rasputin special.
It's like 50 Cent.
He does get briefly unmasked, and he's like, and
very
puts the mask
briefly.
back on. Did that do anything for you? Did it make you go, ah?
Nothing.
Or make you, nothing?
Nothing.
So I think he has such a weirdly innocent, disturbed face.
Well, not normal.
Normal, plain man's face.
What a good-looking lad. What a nice fella. No, it just didn't. I thought there was going to be some sort of big, wow. But there's no, that reveal also, I don't know if I no-sold it or if it no-sold itself to me, but that didn't really do anything for me, seeing his face. And yeah, he's been shot off a balcony, lands outside.
But wouldn't you know it, kid's gone again.
Was that the boogeyman? As a matter of fact, it was. And yeah. I quite like the montage of places at the end where you just hear
Fucks, don't pity me in my movie I like, alright?
I didn't hate it. I just thought it was fine. It was
Look,
okay.
if we do an episode of
fine.
Cinema Swirl, and at the end, if it was a comedy and you didn't laugh, and it's a horror movie and you weren't scared, you know, and it is an action movie, you didn't go, what? You didn't, like, attempt to fist pump the air, well, then something's gone wrong, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about, like, what about this was
It wasn't scary, it seems,
remarkable
for you.
or stood out to me.
But it's all stuff, like, it's nothing here you hadn't, I guess, this...
Seen some of this before?
Yeah, this seems to me like the equivalent of like going somewhere and getting like the best pasta and tomato sauce, but it's very, 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 you know, it's just pasta and tomato sauce. You know, it's maybe really nice handmade pasta, and it's the inspiration for all these other great pastas that have come.
That sounds pretty scary to me, actually. That's
whoa. There, hang on. But I just kind of feel
what colour is that sauce?
These like kind of like pre-Genitor type movies. That is definitely a word. Which is these type of movies that spawn so many other movies from them. That is something I think we've come up with a few times.
Yeah.
And yes, I felt when we watched something like Citizen Kane, it was so old, it immediately became like super impressive. If he as much scratched himself, it's like, he did it in the fucking 20s, oh my God. Whereas 1978 seems to be just about the cutoff point for this being impressive in any way for you.
It was just,
because I feel like The Warriors, it's when it, like if we watched The Warriors, I told you it came out in like 1991, you would have probably given it a star wipe rating less, I would have thought.
I'm not sure about that.
No, it's the time didn't kind of go, wow, this came out before all this other stuff and it's so influential. I feel like I'm fishing for compliments on the movie's behalf, and that's not my job here.
Music was good. The performances were all right. They were fine. The character is interesting.
Where would you rank him with some of the other scary characters we've seen? Your Hannibal Lecters, your Freddy Kruegers, your Gremlins, etc. How would you rank him as a Hollywood ghoul?
Less scary than those you've listed, I think.
Less scary than the Gremlins. I mean, no, they're pretty fucking scary, in fairness.
They are scary, yeah, and they're kind of gross and freaky, and they're
and you at home, stop fucking sneering. Yeah, we're allowed to be scared of Gremlins.
They're scary. I don't want this to just be like, I wasn't scared, so it doesn't count. Like, that's not. I was gonna say that's not what a horror movie has to be. Kind of fucking is.
But were you entertained? Were you bored? Like, it was an hour and a half long, not a very long movie.
A little bit.
Were you? You were restless.
A little bit of times I was like, oh, he's going to murder another babysitter. They're going to get a bit closer. You know, the doctor and Brackett are going to, and then...
Just so everyone at home knows, and I feel it should be pointed out, I had a proper go here trying to make him like it. I really did try. I really tried so hard.
That opening sequence?
To the detriment of the review, I might add. And I did that for ye, not me, ye.
That opening sequence, right? With the point of view thing, and then the twist is that it's a kid. Fucking hell, that was good. That almost bumps it up.
And was it all downhill from there, pretty much?
Kind of. Yeah.
Jesus, it was on now.
I think there is something there where you're saying like it's familiar, and it almost felt formulaic and a bit boring because it might have set the template, and because I'm now seeing that template be changed and moved around and people subvert it and change things about it, to see the original kind of unaltered.
It's a blueprint of sorts, isn't it? You know,
could seem a little bit uninteresting for me.
Does its low budget charm give it anything in the way of an extra credit or praise? It doesn't seem like that's a thing for you, I guess. So
I like the fact that the director did the music as well.
He gets 2 checks that way.
I didn't like the fact that the continuity was not great.
Okay, look, I need to say it right now because I know what's coming, and it's not good news. And I kind of sensed it was good. No, because if we ever had The Thing is at 3-star wipes, and I don't think you like this as much as you like The Thing, not by a fucking not by a yard.
Right.
I just had to say, I feel like I'm doing John Carpenter dirty on this podcast suddenly. I don't think I've ever had this on this show where I feel like I've swung and missed out now. And there has to be a way for Sam to like the fucking weirdo director who does cool sci-fi stuff and plays the synthesizer.
He's got a lot of films.
How have we fucked this up? Like, what's going on?
Hey, now, there's a factor here. It was a lovely day. I watched it.
That's true.
I watched this
at
in March.
8:30 in the morning in the middle of March, and it was a beautiful day, might I add.
But if ever there was a spooky film to not watch at Halloween for Spooky Swell, admittedly, the temptation of it being funny that we're doing Halloween not on Halloween was too much. But we maybe missed a trick there, and maybe I missed some of the impact of it, but I'm not sure. I think maybe as a teen, this might have scared me more.
That's not enough to scare us, and like,
this could be a thing where, we've had this before where I'm like, I didn't really get it now, but I imagine if I watched it when I was younger, when everyone watched it.
That's true, yeah. If you were a teen maybe and you're watching this late at night on Halloween, that's the thing. What this movie for me, it was kind of like that, it's this one, and you're going to watch it on Halloween, there was hype there. And I don't feel like A Priest World necessarily was a sufficient hype in March to get you in but like, hey, you should be able to appreciate a movie without buffs,
Yeah. No, yeah. And I just
rip the Band-Aid off. Go on.
I didn't look. Well, you were saying that it seemed like I don't like this as much as I liked The Thing, and I gave The Thing 3.
Even though you were probably more upset during The Thing, that's because The Thing was genuinely more upsetting. It made you feel uneasy, and it was gross. And you particularly remember the stop motion thing. That's where we started finding out about that. And so you were feeling all sorts of bad. And that's good for a horror movie. You're just fucking ambivalent here now. Go on.
Right, what you might have done now is you might have bumped me down.
I spent an hour and a half nearly trying to hype this movie up to little or no avail. So I don't want... This is the thing, I'm very paranoid in this podcast about like me trying to shine up a movie after you've had a bad gut reaction. And I tried. I spit-shined it as much as I could. But, spit will only get you so far.
And look, I was taken in a little bit, but I wanted to stick to my guns and be like, this is what I thought and this is what I still feel. So maybe it's not a 3. I don't think it's a 2. Fuck the rules, man. 2.5 star wipes.
You heard it here first.
Oh, thanks for listening to another episode of Cinema Swell. This episode was produced by Kevin, edited by me, Sam, and I also did the music. If you want to support the show, then patreon.com/cinemaswell is the way to go. If you want to follow us on the socials, we're at CinemaSwirl on Twitter and facebook.com/CinemaSwirl on Facebook, which is where our votes for episodes take place. If you've got questions, queries, comments, or anything else for the mailbag, then send it on over to cinemaswirl@gmail.com. That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Please do keep recommending the show to your friends if you think they'll like it, or even if you don't think they'll like it, just recommend it anyway. Oh, and if there are any bits in recent episodes that you think would make particularly nice video clips, the kind of thing we've had on our socials recently, then send us a tweet and let us know. Alright, we'll see you next time. Cheers, bye. Will writes the following.
That's in the extras.
I enjoyed that.